Welcome to the Bureau. I'm Eivor of Alamut, and today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite games, Assassin's Creed Mirage. So, spoilers ahead. And I'm not known for brevity when talking about Assassin's Creed, so let's sit back, relax, get comfortable, and let's enter the animus.
What are you doing?
Don't think.
Headed up by Ubisoft Bordeaux, Mirage was the studio's first time leading a major project. They were a newer studio to Ubi, and you would best know them for Valhalla's Wrath of the Druid DLC. Mirage was originally conceived as a fourth DLC from Valhalla, from the 15th anniversary book. In its 15 years, Assassin's Creed has come a long way. What started as a stealth franchise about an order of warriors covertly taking out their targets has evolved a great deal over its lifetime. Recent entries in the series have adopted a more open-world RPG sensibilities, and many of these titles don't even star assassins at all. But for Assassin's Creed 15th Anniversary, Ubisoft wanted to get back to the roots of the franchise with the title named Mirage, initially named Codename Rift. This is a standalone release that is somewhat linked to 2020's Assassin's Creed Valhalla and stars the assassin Basim in Baghdad, but he was not always the intended protagonist. The original idea was to bring Eivor to the Middle East and to complete her training as a true assassin. Our intention was to get back to the city-scale open world and bring back the iconic ingredients and tools of the assassin and design a stealth experience with visceral assassinations. We knew the franchise's 15th anniversary was coming up, and we wanted to pay tribute to the first Assassin's Creed. The idea lived only for a few months on paper, and then, thanks to its promise and potential, it quickly evolved into a standalone game with its own main character, Basim, and thus, Mirage was born. I wonder if the idea of Eivor being trained to be a true assassin didn't last long because it would contradict her whole turning down Hytham to be a hidden one because of her culture thing. Though, a part of me is honestly devastated reading this because this was the DLC I desperately wanted for Valhalla. I mean, if you look in the Ravensthorpe Bureau, you'd find a note from Rayhan to Hytham about reporting back to Alamut in 2 years. Maybe one day I can get a book or a comic or something. Though, fun fact, this would-be DLC inspired the name of my channel, the alternate universe of what if Eivor became a hidden one. And I'm sure you're all going, yes, Eivor, we figured that out. Let's continue. As stated in the 15th anniversary book, the Bordeaux team wanted to go back to the roots of the franchise. Mirage is meant to pay homage to Assassin's Creed 1. All this time later, we're back in the Middle East. We're getting missions from bureaus. We're seeing character designs that are somehow familiar yet entirely new. This game to me is the perfect marriage of old and new Assassin's Creed. And while sure, a part of me will always mourn the dream DLC I never got, Mirage, in my opinion, is the perfect way to celebrate 15 years of Assassin's Creed.
For while he lived in a golden age, at the heart and the height of the Abbasid Caliphate.
To help us understand the world of Mirage, let's dive into the historical setting for a moment. Mirage takes place during what is known as the Islamic Golden Age. It would seem that there were a couple of reasons for this age of prosperity. The Islamic Empire was expanding for one, and usually a success like that leads to new forms of wealth. For one, the Islamic Empire heavily patronized scholars, to the point where it's estimated that certain high-status scholars and translators had salaries that are equivalent to professional athletes of today. It probably helped that the Islamic religion does seem to put value on education and emphasizes the importance of acquiring knowledge. There is a thriving culture around everything from arts, sciences, law, medicine, education, just to name a few. You can see these educational pursuits throughout the game. You can see medical drawings on walls and visit places that hold great knowledge like the famous House of Wisdom. The list goes on and on. It would also seem that Baghdad had a strategic location. It was centrally located between Europe and Asia, which made it an important city for not only trading ideas, but also trading goods. You see vast trading in Kark through the Grand Bazaar, which was a stop along the Silk Road. With Baghdad being this hub, we even see a vast array of NPCs walking around the city. Any of these pursuits mentioned can be found baked into the backdrop of the game. There's so much to find, whether it be the soap district or the observatory, these things that show all the homework the devs did to make this setting come to life. I mean, they basically had to build the city from scratch based on what few descriptions and art there is on it. And I'm no expert on any of this, but this is just my brief recounting of what I found so you can get a better feel for the city Basim finds his story unraveling in. The sun beating down on your skin as you traverse the desert sands. You can almost smell how stale and dry it is. You can certainly taste it as you savor your last drink of water as you reach the city gate. The word immersive gets thrown around a lot, but to me, personally, I do find the Assassin's Creed series very immersive. Mirage is no different. I love the way the Assassin's Creed series uses color to depict mood, feel, and even temperature. In Mirage, we see everything bathed in the soft orange tint. As the creatives of the game say, they had two basic color palettes, Persian blue and an orange sepia. Complementary colors that still oppose each other enough so you can feel the cool of the blue and the warmth of the orange. While one could always turn on the nostalgia filter and fill the game with the muted colors of the first Assassin's Creed, I feel like you'd be missing out on how the game was intended to look. It's all subjective, but honestly, I love the sepia tones used on Baghdad. Another subjective opinion, I honestly think this is the best water has looked in any Assassin's Creed game, and that's saying something. Take a moment to look at the fountains and reflecting pools of Baghdad. There's just something about the way the light reflects off the water. I think it does its purpose and adds to that feeling of this game, the way it captures that hot desert sun. The city breathes, the city feels alive. The call to prayer you hear echo throughout the streets, the way the guards have their own conversations. It really was no small feat to rebuild the city of Baghdad. We honestly don't have a lot of resources for how the city actually looked. Having the city look as breathtaking as it does is no small task. The detailing on the buildings is just so good. The environment is so highly detailed in general. Each district has its own personality. When entering the round city, you feel a shift in social status. It almost seems brighter. The buildings are better looked after, and there are hanging gardens everywhere. You get a sense of each district's specialty when you explore them. Harbiya having artisans making dyes and making soaps. Abbasiyah being focused on intellectual prospects, with the observatory, House of Wisdom, and the Great Bimaristan, aka the hospital. Kark, centering around trade through the bazaar, and even Kark's Sharqiya feels almost a little bit more brutal as it houses the Great Garrison. I can't commend the creatives enough for how beautifully they brought the city to life. I'm in love with it. Those of you who are keen of eye may have noticed that there are some buildings that are just out of time, I guess you could say. We'll use the Dome of the Ass as an example, since I've already seen certain types complain about historical inaccuracy, and those of you who know me know my opinion on that phrase. If Valhalla was the greatest hits of the Norse, then Mirage is the greatest hits of Baghdad. The stuff that's not supposed to be there was done on purpose to give you a feeling of what the city would have been like in its absolute prime, to help you understand the culture just a bit more. For a project like this, there's always a reason and or purpose for something. So yes, they know the Dome of the Ass wasn't built yet, but being such a prominent site, I'm sure they wanted it to be included just to let people learn about it. So again, think of the city in the game as Baghdad's greatest hits. I think you'll come to appreciate the work a lot more. Speaking of appreciating work, I'd like to briefly go over the bureaus, because I love them. They're beautiful. And in homage to the first Assassin's Creed, the main entrance to each bureau is on the roofs, marked with a hidden one's crest and a lattice filled with vines. Each bureau is different and has different points of entry, some from the ground, some through windows, and they're all uniformed and yet unique. I love the mosaic of the Creed's crest right under the rooftop entries, the little water feature it has. Each one's had different notes to go through and perfect free-running pathways going to and from them. I love having the bureaus back. I didn't realize that I kind of missed having bureaus. Personally, my favorite one is the Harbia one. I love the free-running paths connected to it. They feel so good. And if you keep the door barred, it only has the one true entrance from the roof. I like that feeling of seclusion. I think that's a bit of my nostalgia at play, because to me, the Harbia Bureau is the most like the bureaus in the first Assassin's Creed game, and I like it for that. The NPCs are the most reactionary we've ever had. They have more realistic reactions to the things you do. For example, if you kill a guard in public, it's immediately detected as a crime. Civilians run from you as if they'll be next. If you kill a guard and then run to a close hiding spot, sometimes an NPC that saw you commit the crime will find your hiding spot and then try to point you out to other guards. The NPC civilian you just pickpocketed from will actually go tell a guard about what happened to them. The guard will then investigate the surrounding area where the pickpocketing took place, looking for you. If you pickpocket someone in front of guards, well, that's immediate trouble, as they will usually spot you. Speaking of the crimes you can't commit, Mirage also has a built-in wanted system. It has 3 levels to it. With each level, the reactions to you become more intense. For one, NPC civilians will react to just seeing you. They'll even alert to guards to seeing you if you try to hide. If you tear down wanted posters, you'll see civilians staring at it, seemingly memorizing it. Just be careful what you do in the city, because the guards will remember you. The NPCs react to crimes they see you do in small ways that make a big difference. It helps give the city that sense of being alive and lived in. These are great, but I think my favorite background NPC thing that you can see is the hidden ones running throughout the city. If you head into a bureau as you progress the game, you'll usually see hidden ones sitting around. Sometimes it's not even the same NPCs, they have their own missions and goals. I didn't even know this was a thing until my second playthrough, but that's when I saw hidden ones running through the city. I saw one kill a guard, I even followed one into a bureau once. It's not guaranteed in a playthrough, especially if you speed through it or fast travel, but if you take a moment to breathe in the city, you might see fellow hidden ones running around. The NPCs aren't the only ones with reactions though. Basim also reacts to the world around him. If a marksman takes a shot at Enkidu, Basim will apologize to him.
Show me everything. Too great a risk, my friend. Forgive me.
Sometimes when you kill a guard, Basim will try to justify it to himself, saying, "This is necessary." If you decide to loot from a chest out in the open, it's seen as stealing from the NPCs. Basim may even react to them reacting, saying, for example, "Not now." Even when stealthing around NPCs, you will sometimes tell them to "don't mind me" or "just passing through."
As you were. I am not here.
It's such a small thing, but adding Basim reacting to things around him just adds something extra to the game that I honestly really appreciate. It adds to that feeling of Baghdad being alive that I was talking about. The music of Mirage it slaps. I almost don't know what else to say about it. I mean, I'll say more obviously, but still. The music is just some of my all-time favorite in the series. I just can't get over how good it is. The composer for Mirage is Brendan Angelidis, and what a stellar job. I'm no music expert or anything like that, but to me what Brendan is able to do with the soundtrack is just perfect. The music has this blend of sounds that feels appropriate for the setting, both place and time, but it has this almost modern, sci-fi pop music kind of feeling to it, which is my favorite mix, sort of reminiscent of Sarah Schochner's work on Origins. The obligatory sorry if I mispronounce the name. The game's main theme tends to be a good way to feel the tone of the game. Mirage is very dramatic, which I think matches a lot of the game perfectly. It's kind of a dramatic game. It almost feels a little eerie, like there's a secret left to be found. It's perfectly in theme to Basim as a character. There's just something about the music for the game that hits me at my core. The more I think about the soundtrack, the more I think, yeah, this actually might be my favorite in the whole franchise. Which is saying something. I've been here since 2009. But I think the perfect way to try to get you to understand is to play my favorite song, Daughter of No One, basically Roshan's theme. I love this song so much. If you played in Mirage, you might remember it playing during Basim's training montage. Perfectly used, I might add. This song has that drama to it, but it also is somber. It has a tragedy to it as well. It's such a beautiful song, and it fits so much of the story of the game, but also Roshan as a character, which makes sense given the song's name. I feel like I could gush forever about the music. I just love it so much. gameplay for Mirage is very unique. I feel like there is familiarity with some of it, parts of it pulling from Unity and Syndicate, while still having pinches of games like Valhalla. But let's start with the combat. The gameplay for the combat is simple, the simplest we've ever had in any Assassin's Creed game. Combat basically revolves around 3 buttons, your 2 front bumpers and the side button, or at least on controller. I use an Xbox controller, for example. It's attack, parry, and dodge. That's kind of it. Of course, when you unlock and upgrade more tools, this can spice up the combat a bit, but there really is nothing fancy. Your singular attack button can do either light or heavy attacks depending on how you hold it, and enemies will glow either red or this gold kind of yellow color. The color telling you whether to dodge or parry incoming attacks. Red is dodge, yellow is parry. My favorite combat of the Assassin's Creed series is Valhalla. I really feel like they refined it in the last title. That doesn't mean I hate Mirages though. I feel like making combat this simple serves a purpose. It feels very reminiscent of, you guessed it, the first Assassin's Creed game. It feels almost punishing, not in the sense of it being hard, so perhaps it's really more like Unity then. Combat was always described as an assassin's last resort. Here I feel like we see something similar. I mean, Roshan even states,
"As hidden ones, we must become proficient with a number of weapons. You never know how a fight will escalate."
The combat is so simple because the game is more focused around stealth. The stealth-based controls is where Mirage's gameplay really shines. Again, the gameplay for the tools isn't complex either, but you can tell the game is built around you using them and sneaking through levels. You get a fairly wider range of tools to play with too, from classic throwing knives to smoke bombs, traps that feel reminiscent of Revelations. I mean, even the blow darts make a comeback. Each one of these can be upgraded in 3 different ways, making your tool usage and gameplay pretty unique. I gotta say, it's a small thing, but I honestly love the red of the smoke bombs. It's so visually striking. If you find yourself stuck in combat and you don't want to fight your way out, you can use your tools to spice up your combat. What I like to do is simply throw a smoke bomb to assassinate the guards and quickly get out of combat. I feel like if you've ever played Mirage or even seen some gameplay of it, you can really get the feeling of how the game is built around the stealth aspects. The game is built around this perfectly. You can see it in the way levels are designed, even when you're doing side stuff. The game is on your side, so play around with the tools, experiment, and just have fun with it. When it comes to reconnaissance gameplay, Mirage takes the best from previous titles. You want to scout ahead with a bird? We have Enkidu. I'm sure by now most of us are used to the Predator Bird, Eye in the Sky gameplay, with Senu, Icarus, and then Sunin. Enkidu can mark your enemies, find objectives, and so long as you're careful of marksmen. Enkidu can have arrows shot at him by marksmen, meaning you can't use him for certain missions until you take out the marksman. We also have Eagle Vision back in full force. In Valhalla, Sunin would kind of work in tandem with Eivor's Odin's Sight. Sunin couldn't really tag enemies and was best for use for finding objectives, while Odin's Sight worked very similarly to Eagle Vision, finding weak points in enemies, and so on. It still wasn't referred to as Eagle Vision. Basim has full Eagle Vision, able to see all sorts of things from refills to friends and even coin-filled purses. One of my favorite things about Basim's Eagle Vision is the fact that you can see exactly where guards are looking, which is very helpful. I'm a little surprised I didn't see more fanfare over Eagle Vision's full return. With gameplay, there is one more major thing we should talk about though. Let's talk about the controversial Assassin Focus. Assassin Focus is unlocked after your first major assassination. It is the singular ability in this game. When activated, time is slowed down drastically, and you can lock onto multiple targets. When executed, Basim can kill the targets faster than they can even react, with eerie music and sounds playing in the background. I know a lot of people hated this. They said it was too fantasy and just felt out of place. Well, the good news is, if you don't like it, you don't need to use it. You're only forced to use it when you first acquire it, aka the tutorial for it, and that's it. So if you find this element too out of place, you honestly don't need it to complete the game. Me though, I think it's really interesting. I feel like perhaps those who are Isu Reborn perhaps have almost otherworldly skills. I don't think Assassin Rush is as crazy as some people make it out to be. Listen to the sounds, the little tune that plays when it happens. It sounds more tech-based. Again, people forget the past segments are looked through the lens of the Animus. I still think that holds true for Mirage. I think assassin focus is just Basim moving so quickly the animus can't keep up with his movements. And I think that's a fair theory about the ability, instead of the way I see most people getting upset and saying it's just too fantasy. Make a theory around the tech. The game is a sci-fi, after all. When talking about gameplay, I think this is the best place to talk about how Mirage actually uses sound as a part of the stealth. I really feel like this is an aspect of the game that gets really overlooked. Things like if you land too hard, it'll make enough sound for guards to turn around and look. Hence why as you level up your Hidden One robes, its passive focuses on reducing your sound. In a similar fashion, if you throw down a smoke bomb, that too will make enough of a noticeable sound, which is why there is an upgrade for them that makes the smoke bombs noiseless. If you hit collect on bags or what have you laying around, and it's close to a guard, that too will give out a sound, making the guard turn to investigate. I mean, there's a whole tool that's called Noisemaker that does just that. It makes noise to draw guards away. The point is, the game uses sight and sound to create a more in-depth stealth experience. Our protagonist for Mirage is a familiar face. For those of you who played Valhalla, you might recognize him. Basim ibn Ishaq is the protagonist of Mirage. When we last saw this character, he was older and being unplugged from an ancient computer, basically. In Valhalla, we saw Basim had already recovered his memories as the Isu Loki. In Mirage, we see a younger Basim. This is his story about how he uncovered said Loki memories, how his memories affected him like we saw them affect Eivor in Valhalla. Basim is a street thief who has a strong sense of justice and desperately wants to join the Hidden Ones, thinking that if anyone can help the people and change things for the better, it'd be them. When he joins the Hidden Ones, he is committed, but that jinn haunting him. Ever since he can remember, Basim has been haunted by a jinn. He doesn't know why, but he has a sense that there's something more to him. But more on that later. I honestly love Basim as a character. I loved him in Valhalla, so you can imagine my utter joy when I learned he was going to be Mirage's protagonist. Even before Mirage, I found him so interesting and complex. And smoking hot, so to see the origins of the Basim we know, yes, sign me up. So let's get into his character design. For those of you who don't know, I'm really into character design. This is some of my favorite stuff right here. Basim's design is another example of the perfect marriage of old and new Assassin's Creed, this homage to where the franchise started. Basim's Hidden One robes are meant to resemble Altair's robes. You can see that in the cut of his tunic, his belt, and the way his sash lays. We're seeing the Hidden Ones slowly transition into the assassins we know. The white and blue of his design is to symbolize his status as a novice. Master Hidden Ones being given the classic white and red. Since Basim is our protagonist, he still finds ways to stand out. The blue brooch he wears on the front is a piece of ceramic to remember his father's house in Samara, a piece of his past to hold on to. You can see a green ring on his finger, which I love that the cosplay guide says it was most likely stolen from a rich merchant. Again, this is great visual storytelling, seeing little details like this. It adds more personality to him. I love the little details that were thought out here, down to the materials the hidden blade is made of. Yes, the creatives thought of that too, saying it is a mix of copper and bronze to show the evolution of science at the time. There's also elements that tie young Basim to the Basim we already met. If you look at his shoulder armor, while a different shade of brown, it is the same armor we see in Valhalla. It has the same snake design on it. Same with his belt. The buckle is the same one with, again, snake detailing. I love the snakes in his design. Snakes are an actual symbol of the Norse god Loki, so I love the creatives bringing that into Basim's design. Oh, also, Basim is missing a singular knife on his belt, just like in Valhalla. I feel like there's some sort of significance there. Now, I don't know if this is going to be a hot take, but if I'm being completely honest, Basim has my favorite character design in the series. I love this blend of Altair, new ideas, and Basim as he is now with what Basim will be. It's a really interesting blend of elements that I think complements how complex Basim is as a character. A quick go over of his Master Hidden One outfit just because I find it really interesting. This outfit seems to let go of pieces of his past. Most importantly, he no longer has that blue pendant. This is probably a far more interesting bit of visual storytelling for me, but I think it's worth sharing. His master robes now have the classic red and white color, and because of that, they almost feel more like Altair, even if the tunic isn't really shaped like Altair's robes. At least that's what I think. Basim's master robes truly feel like him coming into a new identity. I do want to briefly go over Roshan and even briefer, Mentor Rayhand. I really love what they did with their designs, and they really did show off Roshan almost as much as Basim when the game was coming out. I mean, she is incredibly important to Basim's story. Roshan bint La'ahad, and for those of you who caught on to the Altair similarities, her last name means daughter of no one, but she is my Persian mom and the master hidden one who teaches Basim and guides him on his journey as best she can. Her robes are meant to mimic Ezio's robes, specifically his Brotherhood ones. I feel like once I say that, you'll easily see it. The way her tunic lays, the way the red rests on top of it. I love it. Roshan is meant to look imposing, the stance of a natural leader, which I think they nailed. As a nod to her Persian origins, Roshan has these design details that other Levantine hidden ones don't. The creative state things like the leather around her neck and shoulder, but more obviously her sword, which, funnily enough, is the biggest sword in the game. Mentor Rayhand, on the other hand, has this very interesting outfit. We were first introduced to Rayhand's robes in Valhalla as a reward for completing the side quest with Roshan. I loved actually seeing the robes on Rayhand himself. They almost feel out of place, yet make complete sense at the same time. His color scheme is supposed to be a callback to Revelations Ezio, but funny enough, as soon as you turn that gray color white, his robes almost feel like Assassin's Creed 2 Ezio to me. I don't know if anyone else sees it though. But thank you for indulging me in gushing about character design. I think that's enough preamble for now though.
Ulath, tell Basim the story of the feather.
Our tradition of the feather comes from Egypt. They represent the feathers of Ma'at. The feathers of the heron were dipped in the blood of the targets. These would be left for the Lord of the Duat to judge. It is important we remain humble and know our place in the process. We are messengers of justice, and not the final judges.
When I first played Mirage, the story it hit me. I loved it. I loved the game so much that 2 days later I started a second playthrough. No joke. I played the game twice in a row, happily. I loved it even more a second time. This is now my third playthrough. When retelling the story though, I'm going to hit the main points. If I went through every little detail, we'd be here forever. So I figured going over the main points to understand the overall story would be the best way to do this. I do go a little in depth when talking about the beginning of the game because there is a lot to set up. I want us to understand the characters and their motives. I'm not just going to retell it though, I do plan to analyze the story after I break it down. There's a lot to get into here, but let's quickly start with how Valhalla ended so we can understand how we got here. Hold on. Okay. That's better. Alright, where were we? The ending of Valhalla, we had William Miles and Basim engage in a fancy Discord call. In this conversation, William, unsure if he can trust the man at a time, asks Basim for a sample of his blood. Basim, stating William was a smart man for doing so, complies with the assassin mentor and sends him a sample of blood. And this is where Mirage starts. The cold opening to the game, we hear a voiceover of William Miles, and this is it for the modern day story. All of Mirage is just the historical setting, which is a brave move. The idea now is we're being shown what William experienced through the Animus. At least that's how I interpret it. William then explains what he saw reliving Basim's memories. He starts with saying, "You asked me about this memory. I said it was lost. I lied." Already there's questions. The most important one being, who is William Miles talking to? Is it us, the Initiate? Is it another character? We never get that answer. Maybe we will one day, but for now, we just don't know. As for why he hid it, William goes on to say how he's worried the wrong lessons would be learned, but Basim has lived many lives, and because of that, he has much to teach. He explains how Basim came to the Hidden Ones as nothing more than a street thief dreaming of a better life, not just for himself, but for all those he saw suffering in the margins. Despite Basim living in the Golden Age, if you scratched away at the gilded surface, you'd easily find the rot underneath, the Order of Ancients being behind this. But the Hidden Ones were there to oppose them, striking from the shadows. William states how centuries ago, Basim was at the heart of this conflict. William then says that Basim actually honored the creed. Not just that, but he challenged it. Now the assassins must do the same, saying how we all have it in us to mistake the shadows we walk for the light we serve. Because, according to William Miles, there may come a time where the assassins are tested just like Basim was, and he fears that time is coming soon. The year? 861. The place? Anbar, a province of Baghdad. We open on a nightmare. A genie is haunting a young Basim. It's creepy, it's crawly, I hate it, please get it off me. Basim awakes in a panic to find his friend Nihal. Nihal and Basim are childhood friends, surviving on the streets together for years. They're accomplished pickpockets but also run errands for Darwish, a merchant type who keeps an eye out on all the kids who are poor and possibly orphaned, like Basim. Today's errand is one Basim is always happy to accept. The Hidden Ones need a favor. We learn right off the bat Nihal doesn't like the Hidden Ones or Basim's fondness for them. Basim has a strong sense of justice. He admires the Hidden Ones and what they promise for the people. People who are poor and in need. People who deserve justice. After all, Basim has experienced injustice through his father, Ishak, who designed the Great Mosque back in Samarra but was left uncredited and died spurred and poured, to which Basim finds an incredibly unfair way to treat a man who was such a loyal civic servant. Nihal, on the other hand, is very self-serving. She's critical of the Hidden Ones, finding Basim too idealistic. She reminds Basim to serve himself first, and even though Basim is an arrogant man, he's not necessarily selfish. Accepting this task for the Hidden Ones sends Basim to the harbor. We must acquire a logbook. On his return, we see one of them, a hidden one. It's Roshan. She's looking for something, a black box. After Basim makes a desperate plea to join the Hidden Ones that ultimately fails, he takes it upon himself to find the box. Luckily, one of the other kids working in the harbor that morning saw the black box being taken to the Winter Palace. Basim, knowing the Hidden Ones seek this box, and that they failed to retrieve it more than once, decides to do something, well, stupid. He's stubborn and is absolutely focused on becoming a Hidden One. The plan? Easy. Break into the Winter Palace and steal a chest. What could possibly go wrong? The breaking and entering was seemingly the easy part, but as Basim and Nihal wait to steal the chest, that's when they see them. The Order of Ancients. They're covered head to toe in black. Their masks reflect old Babylonian Mesopotamian art. They're intimidating. Intimidating even to the Khalifa. They leave the prize box in his possession, assuming it would be well guarded under the leader of the Abbasid Caliphate. You'd think that. Instead, Basim and Nihal are able to walk right up to it. The box being too big to carry out, Basim decides to take what's inside. Our pseudo-MacGuffin, the memory seal. Basim reaches into the box and takes hold of the disc, and immediately it reacts to his touch. An image unfolds. What we see is a scene of what looks like two people, one in bonds and in pain, and the other beating and shouting at the tied-up one. Basim is in a trance, only broken when the Khalifa comes at him. The Khalifa has Basim in his hands, Basim trying to reach for his dagger as he chokes. Basim might have died if it weren't for Nihal being able to grab the dagger herself, stabbing the Khalifa. They're then spotted by the Khalifa's son, and then the two run for their lives out of their palace back home. Basim safely makes it and looks at the seal. The object flickers in his hand. In frustration, he throws it onto the ground, and then being exhausted, falls asleep. This time, he is woken up by Roshan. When Roshan asks what happened in reference to the memory seal, Basim explains he has no explanation. Suddenly, he was somewhere else, cold and afraid. It would seem the seal does work in the same, or at least similar ways to the ones in Revelations, as it sounds like it transported Basim into the scene we saw in the Winter Palace. Though there isn't much time to dwell on what happened. Roshan offers Basim an escape. All the guards are looking for a young thief matching his description. This clicks a realization in Basim's head. The children. He rushes back to Darwish's, only to find, well, something horrid. Showing the cruelty of those in power. Nihal shows up trying to comfort Basim, but in shock over what's happened, he snaps. He blames Nihal for all this, saying it's her fault and how he wishes never to see her again. She doesn't say much, but in anger obliges Basim. Now again, Basim runs for his life. He runs to where Roshan said she was going to be. Guards catch him as he reaches the docks. The guards ask each other if they have the right kid, and then one just simply states, close enough. Before they can kill Basim, Roshan steps in and just kicks absolute ass. She even does that little jump off the wall move. I'm not really sure what to call it. Basim is then led to jump into the water, only to fall in screaming in terror. A little moment that always makes me laugh. We flash forward a couple months to Alima and Oh. Anyway, we're here! Basim is trying a leap of faith, but there's still hesitation in him. Roshan can clearly see it. She wants Basim to put all his trust into the Brotherhood, to pour his pain into the Brotherhood. Leap of faith training doesn't last long, and Basim is sent to see Fula, where he is introduced to Enkidu the Eagle. I love the name Enkidu being picked for Basim's eagle. Earlier in the story, we had Nihal sort of chastising Basim, asking him, "Who do you think you are, the next Gilgamesh?" Basim basically replies that he's flattered she thinks so highly of him, and now he might aim for those standards. Enkidu in Mesopotamia stories being the beast man and best friend to Gilgamesh. Very brief explanation, still a great naming scheme. Anyway, Basim is sent on an errand. During this, Basim overhears a conversation between mentor Rayhand and an emissary from Baghdad. Basim learns that the protection of Alamut might be in jeopardy, just something they remember for later. But the important thing is, Basim gets his real weapons today. He is then sent to train with Roshan, to which we start seeing an interesting shifts in Basim whenever he spars with Roshan. He almost has this anger, and at the end of his sparring match, Basim pulls a move and Roshan remarks, "Where did that come from?" He was out of character for a moment there. Interesting. Later, mercenaries from Baghdad get sent onto Alamut, forcing Rayhan to react. Nur, Basim's friend, volunteers to go investigate Baghdad, after which some time passes. Basim is ready to be initiated as a Hidden One. The cave where the ceremony takes place is just... I feel it's been the kind of blaze ceremony we've been wanting for years now. It's almost eerie. It's definitely some of the most cult-like we've seen the Hidden Ones or Assassins. It's full of ceremony and symbolism, ended with Basim cutting off his own finger, officially a Hidden One. He's made it. Now again, Roshan and Basim spar, this time as equals. Basim again has that tinge of anger about him, which immediately has Roshan tilting her head. She notices it. It's something she always notices. Their spar is interrupted by Nur, who returns injured. In his place, Rayhan sends Basim, Roshan, and Fula to Baghdad. Upon their arrival to Baghdad, the trio must continue Nur's work and figure out what happened to their ally Ali ibn Muhammad. Nur had stated he was taken after all. Basim is sent to investigate the clues, which not only leads to a new ally of Beshi, but we also get to see Derwish again, who immediately is relieved to see Basim is alright. It's a sweet little moment. There's no time to rest as it's a race to save Ali. Basim finds the Hidden One's new ally held up in the Damascus Gate prison, and after some careful sneaking around, Basim locates Ali. Ali is arrogant, delusional, and stubborn. I love him. Other than Roshan, he is my favorite side character. Ali is an important asset to Basim's mission, and through him, he learns about the first main order member, Al Ghul. We learn that Al Ghul has been using prisoners and migrant workers to dig far out in the desert. He's looking for more treasures like our disc in the Winter Palace. Upon his deathbed, he admits as much, but also alludes to Basim being more than he appears. This leaves Basim unsettled. This feeling only deepening as this death brings about the genie. In Alamut, Basim was free of his tormentor. Now the creature is back. Even worse, the jinn tormented Basim while awake. His reality is coming back to him. He even sees Nihal again. Roshan permits him time to go heal his wounds and make up with Nihal. Basim finding his friend back in their old house, only to realize while he's been training, she's been obsessing over the symbol on the disc they stole. Basim and Nihal both recognize it. They've seen it before that night in the palace. This path leads you to collecting shards from the Tha'abin members, shards almost reminiscent of the ones the Cult of Cosmos carried in Odyssey. We'll have to put a pin in that for now. More order members await us. From here, you as a player get to decide which bureau to travel to progress the story. I tend to go Abbasiya, Sharqiya, and then Kark. For me, it feels sort of thematic to save the mission with Roshan for last. Ultimately, it's your choice. This is the order I'll be going in, though. Arriving in the Abbasiya Bureau, Basim is greeted by its new Rafiq Tabid. After explaining that one of the Bana Musa brothers, Ahmed, never showed to help set up the bureau, Basim is quickly tasked with checking out the House of Wisdom to find the missing brother. As Basim approaches the House of Wisdom, smoke can be seen pouring into the sky. Books have been burned, and according to the house's keeper, Fazil, it is too soon for motives, or even what books have been lost. As Basim searches for leads on Ahmed, he learns more information about the dig site mentioned earlier, amongst other things. At the end of Basim's investigation and 2 lower order members' deaths later, it turns out Old Man Fazil, who he had met earlier, was behind the fire, and as it turns out, it was a ruse/cover to kidnap and steal books. Fazil's main goal is the Great Work. Come to find out, the Great Work is a machine specifically to decipher memory seals. This machine is called Al-Ruha, meaning the soul or the spirit in Arabic. It shares its name, fitting enough, with the Animus. Animus also means the soul or the spirit, but in Latin. I say it's fitting because Al-Ruha works very similarly to the Animus. Memory seals were put into the machine to decipher them, and unknowing test subjects were thrown into the machine, causing these innocents to lose their mind. They couldn't handle what they were seeing. Fazil claims that the machine would allow humanity to learn about those who came before, to know the Isu. After all, the Order of Ancients have an almost religious fervor for the Isu, admiring their order over humanity and seeking for that same order and control to return. But the way the Order was trying to achieve their goal in this regard is inhumane, frying innocent minds with the promise of more. Basim ends the life of Fazil, another Order member gone, but the genie returns, gnawing at the back of Basim's neck, haunting him in his waking hours. There's no time to dwell on the nightmares, though. Basim turns in his hair and feather to Tabid and continues his quest to take down the Order's influence on the city. Next, Basim goes to Fula in Shirkiya. As he arrives at the bureau, the sound of yelling can be heard through the door. It's Ali. He's arguing to Fula about wanting to act against those who executed his men. Fula convinces Ali to lay low and let Basim do all the dirty work while he takes all the credit. Ali seems satisfied, but there isn't much time to linger, as Ali and Basim make their way to Jarjaraya. On the way, Ali and Basim engage in a debate over what it means to be truly free. The conversation takes them all the way to the gate of Jarjaraya, where, after tailing an informant, helping a mother, and learning that Ali just might be a little unhinged, Basim makes his way back to Baghdad proper. Back in the Grand City, Basim learns the names of 2 lower order members. Returning to Fala after dealing with them, they lead Basim to the next major order member. With what little information Basim has, Ali and Fula are still able to deduce the order member is probably Wasif al-Turki, a warlord in the Turkic army. Ali then reveals that Beshi had been taken, and he was most likely being taken by Wasif. Wasif has returned to the city and will be at the Great Garrison. Ali and Basim meet in front of the garrison to form a plan to free Beshi and the other members. Before doing so, Ali and Basim see a conversation between Wasif and Baghdad's governor, Muhammad ibn Tahir. The governor tells Wasif that he needs to control himself, to which Wasif responds angrily and tells the governor that he holds no power over him. This makes Basim question the governor's loyalties, but there's no time to dwell on it. Basim makes his way into the Great Garrison, and after finding a way into the inner part of it, Basim sees Beshi tied up. Wasif approaches Beshi, and before Basim or Ali can save him, Wasif ends Beshi. Ali takes a moment to mourn his friend, but then gets back to help the rest of the rebels. Basim frees them and then creates a distraction through a signal fire, allowing him to slip in to get Wasif. The end to the warlord brings back the same gnawing feeling during Basim's waking hours. The genie stalks him, so close, and yet Basim is able to come to, and Ali takes credit for the fall of Wasif. Basim returns to the bureau with yet another feather. Basim then makes his way to the Kark bureau proper. Corruption has been taking place in the district, worse than ever before, to the point where goods are being seized. The Order is presumed to be behind this. Roshan and Basim together decide to go investigate the bazaar, where the preparation for the annual grand auction, the Da'irat al-Mal, will be taking place soon. As Basim and Roshan walk together, Basim reflects on Kark and how things have changed since he was here as a child. The district holds few happy memories for him. Roshan, after being asked by Basim, proceeds to reflect on the first life she has ever taken. She doesn't say too much because she prefers to keep the past, well, in the past. Memories only serve to distract. If one cannot quell the storm inside of themselves, then they will be forever haunted by their past, like Basim and his genie. The two continue their walk. Basim notes he has an old friend that might be able to help them figure out what's going on in Kark. Basim finds his old friend Kong, a tea trader. At first, Kong pretends not to know Basim. Basim, thinking Kong truly doesn't remember him, even describes his favorite tea, which was
Ginger with some turmeric.
But Kong then says Basim doesn't like tea. And I really hope Basim wasn't just drinking ginger and turmeric. I really hope there was actual tea leaves in there. As from what I can tell, it seems China traded in all sorts of tea, from black, green, oolong, and pu'er, which makes sense since tea all comes from the same plant. But continuing. Kong and Basim catch up briefly. After helping Kong retrieve a crate of tea that was taken away to the storehouse, Basim explains how he needs a way into the grand auction, and in exchange for yet another favor, during which we learn that the harbor master was seizing all foreign goods in search of a Chinese hairpin, Kong gives Basim an invite into the Diorat al-Mal. Still, there is trouble in the bazaar that needs looking into. After helping a perfume merchant, Basim learns that the taxes for merchants, especially the foreign ones, had been raised and now they're being harassed by guards. And after helping the perfume merchant more by helping other merchants and their supply into the city, Basim learns that the merchants were being held up and intimidated by the order. With clues and some identifying information from the merchants he helped, Basim is directed to the tax collector. After ending his target, Basim finds notes, learning the hike in taxes is to fund the blockade he had dealt with earlier. Basim then returns to the bureau and reports his finding to Rebecca and Roshan. After some discussion, it would seem that Basim's target is Treasurer, the first faceless target. Basim must tread carefully if he's to take out the right person. The auction will be starting soon, but Basim has some time to try and find more information about his target. This leads to yet another favor from Kong in exchange for information, as well as conversing with the merchant who sells Chinese goods. It is through this merchant Basim learns that he is selling the hairpin that the treasurer seeks in the auction that night. As Basim tries to uncover more information, he stumbles into a conversation between two women, a perfume seller and the royal consort Qabiha, talking about his target. After the perfume merchant takes her leave, Basim approaches Qabiha and, using his silver tongue and wit, speaks with her about her perfume. Internally, he recognizes the smell from some of the notes he had found earlier. Through this conversation, Basim learns the treasurer's name is Ning. Then the auction begins. The treasurer, Ning, doesn't make an arrival until the hairpin is up to bid. The Chinese hairpin, which looks more like a Persian one or something just by looking at the dragon on it, is won in the auction by Basim. Posing as a simple merchant and using the hairpin, Basim gains his audience with Ning. After some back and forth, Basim asks if Ning's connections helped her achieve her status and power. Ning states how one only has themselves, then attacks Basim with the hairpin, now seeing through his guise. Basim gets the upper hand and ends the treasurer's life. Now dying, Ning repeats how one only has themselves, a notion Basim disagrees with. Then, the gnawing sensation. The genie returns, more intense than ever before, stalking Basim's every move, every takedown of a target clouded by the creature. There isn't much time to think on the genie as Basim needs to flee Ning's guards. He runs, making his way to the safety of the bureau. Despite his victory, Basim seems sullen. Roshan asks if it was the genie again. Basim tries to push it off, saying the creature is gone. Roshan advises he get some rest for now, for there's more work still to be done. Sometime later, Basim awakes in his old home in Anbar. Nihal is there with him. Basim needs to leave as the Hidden Ones need him. Nihal once again argues with Basim, trying to convince him that the Hidden Ones are still hiding information. The two still are not fully understanding what the disc is or why both sides seek it. Nihal suggests loosening the tongues of the Order of Ancients, to which Basim scoffs at. He took an oath to stop the Order, not break bread with them. The two friends part ways, not seeing eye to eye yet again. Basim makes his way to the Harbiya Bureau, arriving to Roshan looking over a map. Basim does try to press to get some of his questions answered, but gets cut off when Fulal arrives. Now it's time to focus on who is the head of the snake. The poetess Arib, the royal consort Qabiha, and the governor Muhammad ibn Tahir. Who is the head of the snake? Who is Al-Buhamet? Basim is instructed to only observe the suspects and then return. It is time to finally head into the Round City. First subject, Arib the poet. Basim had met Arib before at the House of Wisdom. Their interaction was brief. A part of what makes her a suspect is that her poetry is loved by both the Order and the Hidden Ones. Tabid, for example, is a big fan of her work. Arib was a real historical person. She became the favorite singer to Khalifa who she was consort to. She was proficient in many things, from poetry to composition, chess, to calligraphy. Talented is putting it lightly. Back in the story, Basim makes his way to her door in the Round City. Arib's patron opens the door instead of her. Basim requests a private audience with the poet, but is immediately turned down by the patron, who declares Arib will not be a part of any more plots involving silly nicknames. The patron shouts how he either has shredded all the letters sent to Arib or returned them to the Postal Bureau. Thinking Arib can lead him to the Order, Basim checks the return letters at the Postal Bureau. He finds a letter with a secret message and then heads to Arib's recital. After the poet finishes, Basim hands her the letter, only to be interrupted again by Arib's patron. The patron calls some guards, which Basim makes quick work of and follows the clues of the message. A trail of mouse drawings. The end of the trail leads Arib into the home of her friend Sarah. no trace of the order to be found. Next is the governor. Before taking out Wasif earlier, Basim had seen the governor giving orders to him. Basim now heads to the Mazalem courts to find any information he can, and after bribing a judge, he finds out that the governor isn't here. As it turns out, the governor has spies that report to him at the Shurta headquarters. Basim follows the spy to the headquarters, and after collecting a key, is able to get into the governor's office. Looking through some paperwork, Basim learns that basically the governor had made a deal with the Order of Ancients to remove the protections of Alamut. That's just a simple explanation, but the main takeaway is that now Alamut is exposed. As Basim searches the office, the governor comes in. At first, the governor mistakes Basim for a member of the Order, but soon realizes he is a hidden one. Basim asks his questions. Why was he giving orders to Wasif? Why did they make a deal with the Order? The governor states everything he does is to bring peace to Baghdad. That's all he cares about. Basim, angered by his fellow hidden ones now in danger, still acts as instructed. Now the governor calls the guards, and Basim must run. The last subject is Qabiha, meaning Basim must now head to the harem. After eavesdropping by a window, he learns new eunuchs are expected to arrive. They are the only men other than the Khalifa allowed inside. With the help of Enkidu, Basim is able to find a disguise, and then after convincing one of the girls, Makara, that she already knew him, Basim is let in. Basim tries to break into Qabiha's office, but is caught by Makara. Makara immediately knows Basim is no eunuch, but before she can get him outed, Basim convinces her that they can help each other out. After all, when was the last time someone took care of Makara? So Basim runs a few errands for her. He gets her eye makeup, grabs her a magic potion off Nazreen that turns out to be alcohol, and places a book on her bed. Makara panics about the potion and asks Basim to return it to Nazreen. Basim does so, and in return finally gets the key. In Qabiha's office, Basim finds Ning's hairpin and other notes that confirm Qabiha's connection to the Order. As Basim leaves the office, there is a commotion. Farah has been poisoned and has passed. The suspect is Nazreen. The bottle Nazreen was holding was actually Farah's, and when she had given it to Farah, well, Makara confesses to him that she wished to silence those who spoke ill of Qabiha. Makara put the eye makeup that was made of belladonna into the alcohol. The book was actually placed in Nazreen's bed and is a book of plants and their usage. Makara also accidentally revealed that Qabiha is hiding in the Palace of the Green Dome. Basim then leaves to go tell Roshan. Basim and Roshan talk about the subjects, and it's clear that the head of the snake is in fact Qabiha. Roshan at first says she'll take care of Qabiha, fearing Basim isn't ready. Basim persuades her though, saying this is what he's been trained to do. He wants to show Roshan that he is capable. Roshan relents, but gives over the feather for Basim to use, then takes her leave. Then out of seemingly nowhere, Nihal appears. She is once again put off with the Hidden Ones, telling Basim what to do, and is convinced they're hiding information from him. He is sworn by his duty and proceeds to enter the palace. Basim infiltrates the palace with seemingly no issue. Once inside, he eavesdrops on some guards talking about how Qabiha's son, Abu Abdallah, was taking a bath. Basim then heads to the bath himself, thinking the boy could lead him to Qabiha. He finds a way in unnoticed, and there he sees Abu Abdallah, not only the son of Qabiha, but also the son of the last Khalifa, the same boy that saw Basim in the Winter Palace and alerted the guards to him. Basim holds a knife to the young man's throat, asking where Qabiha is. Abu Abdallah confesses immediately to her hiding spot, and Basim releases him. When the two look at each other face to face, that's when Abu Abdallah recognizes Basim from that night in the Winter Palace. He remarks about the object, the disc, the lights, the voices. He thought he was going mad. In fact, everyone did. Everyone except his mother, Qabiha. She listened. Basim leaves nearly as quick as he came, a man on a mission. Finding the door to the library, which will lead him to Qabiha's hiding spot, Basim notices he needs a key. Funny enough, Basim finds Makara in the palace, and after a brief back and forth, Basim decides to follow her, knowing that in doing so, it will give him a better chance of finding Qabiha. It works, and Basim finds himself in a library with a puzzle. A poem of Arib's is being used to hide, well, the hiding spot. But being able to quickly solve it, Basim gains access to Qabiha and a chase ensues. Running back into the baths, Basim is now alone with the head of the Order of Ancients, the head of the snake. She holds a dagger to his throat, making Basim drop his sword, but in a quick motion he pushes Qabiha away. She then states, our prodigal scion has arrived. She says how Basim doesn't even know what he is. She then questions him. Has he not thought more about his nature? Basim, who seems to see more, who seems to know more. Basim disarms Qabiha but hesitates on the kill. She continues, saying how even her son knew to ask what Basim was. His touch is what seems to have awakened the disc. Basim, who has been questioning himself for years, wondering why he was different. Basim, who knew there was something more to him, but desperately tried to leave his past behind him, only to be dogged by a djinn. Basim finally asks, "What am I?" Kubiha replies, "Something more than man." Basim demands answers now, telling her enough riddles. Kubiha smiles. "Why speak when you could show?" She tells him to come with her to Alamut. Beneath the temple is all the knowledge Basim is heir to. Then she grimly says that Basim's brothers would sooner die than see him claim it. She promises to clear the way for him. She promises to set him free. Then Kubiha gasps her last breath, dying by Roshan's hand. Basim had been followed. Roshan doesn't waste time and asks what poison has Basim lapped from Kubiha's lips. Basim, clearly shaken, tells Roshan that Kubiha said he was something more than man, then asks what does she mean? What lies beneath the temple? Roshan says it's forbidden ground, insisting there is nothing for Basim there. Pain in his voice, Basim reminds Roshan how he told her about the genie, how Roshan called it a weakness and told him to mend it. He tells her how he tried and tried, but she hid the way and let him struggle alone. Roshan snaps back, not alone. She says how Basim was not the first to walk the shadows broken. She wants him to stitch his shattered pieces into a whole, to pour his pain into the Brotherhood. She wants Basim to forget all Kubiha said and come back home to the Hidden Ones, no more than a man, but no less their brother. Then she shifts, asking him if it's too little for him. Basim then asks, what if it is? Roshan states that if Basim follows the path Kubiha laid out for him, she will kill him herself. Roshan then leaves. Basim needs to tell Nihal what he's learned. He hardly begins to leave when, just like at the Winter Palace, Abu Abdallah alerts the guards to Basim. Basim reaches Nihal and explains how she was right, that Kubiha held answers, that there is more to who he is, a truth that his master sought to silence, a truth that lies at Alamut. With little time to waste, the two friends ride to Alamut. Arriving at Alamut, the two collapse at a stream for water that quickly becomes clouded with blood. Basim looks around, bodies of soldiers and hidden ones covering the area. Weak from his travels, two soldiers get the jump on Basim, but he is saved by a fellow hidden one. After awakening from the genie yet again, Basim finds the hidden one who saved him. It was Nur. Basim asks what happened, and Nur states he is afraid Alamut has fallen. The protections Alamut had have been stripped away. Basim jumps to defend Alamut, but Nur cannot join him. He's wounded. He won't last long. Basim swears he'll make all of them pay. Nur reminds Basim that vengeance isn't their way, to which Basim chastises Nur for clinging to this foolish dogma as he dies. The Creed could not protect Alamut, and neither could he. Nur says that he couldn't protect Alamut either, but reminds Basim that the Creed is why he still draws breath, and why he must save any other hidden ones who still may live. Basim promises to save the other hidden ones, then takes his leave, moving further into Alamut. After making it through some soldiers, Basim is able to save fellow hidden ones, including mentor Rayhan. Rayhan thought Basim was in Baghdad, and asked where the others are. Where's Roshan? Basim states he came alone, and he came for the same reasons the men did. He knows the truth about the temple and what it shelters. Their enemies told him as much. They told Basim to seek it because only he could reach it. Rayhan realizes that the Order used these soldiers to decimate Alamut because Basim is their key. The disc, the memory seal, it was never the MacGuffin. Basim was the MacGuffin. Basim was what the Order was seeking. Basim asks Rayhan if what he's protecting is even worth all this bloodshed. Rayhan says they defend ancient ground and protect it from the Order who seek to exploit its secrets. Rayhan confesses that even though the temple is forbidden ground, he has searched for access inside, but couldn't find it. Basim says he'll find a way himself. Rayhan protests, saying this is just what the Order wants. Besides, what if what they protect should fall into the wrong hands? Basim says it will fall into his hands, then gets Rayhan to realize the gravity of the situation. Look at what the Order will do to get what they want. Basim pleads. If you can gain the knowledge the Order seeks, then maybe the Hidden Ones can finally have an advantage in this endless war. Rayhan grants Basim permission. This is the way forward for the Hidden Ones. Basim enters the cave where he once took his oath as a Hidden One. He reaches the back of the cave, a glow from the wall, the symbol from the memory seal. When Basim touches it, the rock disappears. It was an illusion that hid the door. Before Basim can figure out how to open the door, a knife flies for him. Basim turns. It's Roshan. She reminds Basim that she warned him what would happen. The two once sparred as student and master, then again as equals, and now they fall into similar motions, just as enemies. What was once sparring to teach, to celebrate, is now real. This isn't a student and his master. This is a hidden one religiously following her dogma against the other hidden one who challenges it. Noticing all the blood on Roshan's arm, Basim throws a knife at her, digging to whatever previous wound she has. She's not at her prime right now. Because of this, Basim gets the upper hand. He doesn't kill her though, instead he wounds her. With intense pain in his voice, he begs Roshan to yield. He doesn't want to kill her at all. Nihal comes in and tells Basim to leave Roshan alone. Basim then says to Roshan that he never wanted this, but he needs to know. Roshan then confesses she does not want to lose Basim to what he may find in there. She pleads, saying that Basim doesn't need to look to the past to know who he is, who he can be. He can choose. She still wants Basim to put his faith into her. Even after all this, Roshan only wants what she sees as best for Basim. But what she sees as best for Basim may only have been best for her. Burying her past may work for her, but Basim saw it as control, seeing what Roshan did as no better than their enemies. It's clear that Basim's word affected Roshan. Nihal calls Basim over. The two cut Basim's hand with a knife. Basim, realizing he truly is the key, he presses his blood onto the door. The door opens and the two friends step inside, the door shutting behind them. The temple has that familiar architecture of the Isu. As the two make their way further into the temple, Basim wonders what this place would have been used for, to which Nihal says Basim doesn't want to know. They reach the deepest part of the chamber, opening another door to some sort of pod. Basim remarks about how he knows this place, but as he looks for Nihal, she's suddenly gone. Pounding comes from the pod. Basim goes to open it. Upon opening it, it's Nihal. She's trapped inside. Basim then flashes through his memories of them together. Nihal fading from all these memories. Nihal wasn't the one to kill the Khalifa in the Winter Palace. It was Basim. Nihal never existed. Basim asks what even is she, and she remarks for Basim to see for himself and places the memory seal on a pedestal. The memory plays out. Basim screams out, "No!" and then the workings of his inner mind unfold. The jailer becomes replaced with the genie as Basim pushes it off himself. He demands for the genie to show itself after all it put Basim through. Basim slowly putting the pieces together. Were these just memories from a life long ago? Is that why the genie feels so real? This thing that has always haunted Basim at moments when he felt most vulnerable. He now sees the djinn for what it truly is, a crippling memory from a past life. And that's exactly where the genie will stay. Basim is finally free from his nightmares. Thinking it's all finally over, he hears Nihal tell him, "No, it's only just the beginning." It's only the beginning for what lies ahead, a deeper understanding of the world they left behind and their place in it. Basim says all his life he's wrestled with who he was meant to be. All this time there was Nihal, a side of Basim that he resisted, a reflection of who they once were. Nihal then says who they shall be once more, for there is so much that awaits them. Basim then painfully comes to terms that he will never see his friend again, then asking if he will now be alone. Nihal, or I guess it's safe to say now, Loki's memories say that Basim is never alone. Almost poetically echoing Roshan, the two lives merge together. Basim is now whole. When Basim leaves the cave, he is greeted by fellow Hidden Ones, the light of a new day, a new life. Later that night, Basim sees Roshan and Rayhan talking. Roshan now disillusioned with the Hidden Ones after they welcome back Basim warmly. Roshan leaves the Brotherhood. She leaves her family. She gives up her hidden blade and leaves Alamut. Rayhan bids farewell to Roshan with nothing but respect and even some sadness. He then turns to Basim, saying that they have much to discuss. Basim agrees, and then the two leave the talk. Even though Basim remained loyal to the Hidden Ones and their creed, there is a noticeable shift in his character. A shift that even his dear friend Enkidu notices. Basim calls for his friend, and instead of landing on his arm, Enkidu scratches Basim's face, leaving him with the scar we see on his face in Valhalla. Trying to retell the story of Mirage as succinctly as possible was a bit of a challenge. I really wanted to break down the story, mostly the ending of the story. But to break down the ending of the story, you kind of need to know how we get there, what led to it all. I tried to retell it in a way that hit the major points of Basim's personal story. There's background stuff I had to leave out just to try to streamline things a bit. Doing it in this way will still give you information to find for yourself if you decide to play the game. For me though, I really wanted to look at the growth and change of Basim as a character. So let's look at that ending and contextualize some things. To start, Basim and Loki are not two separate beings in the same body. Loki and Basim are one life continued. Loki lived and was reborn as Basim. Seeing Nihal as a separate person is where people might get a little confused. Nihal is just meant to represent who Basim was. She is Basim's Isu memories personified, the inner part of himself he was always fighting against. Nihal was the Mirage all along. At the very beginning of the game, when the two are pickpocketing, Nihal only spots the pouches but doesn't steal herself. Nihal decided the targets. Perhaps in truth, Basim was using his eagle vision to spot the pouches. After all, when playing in the game, one of the things highlighted in eagle vision is pouches. There were clues sprinkled subtly in the game. No one ever notices Nihal or talks to her. I mean, at the end of the game, after Basim and Roshan fight, if you watch Roshan's face when Nihal comes in, she's confused. When Basim looks to Nihal, Roshan watches where his eyes go, then look back to him, seemingly lost. It's such a good little detail. So if Nihal is just a personification of Basim's past memories, then what is the Jinn exactly? Well, trauma. The Jinn represents Basim's trauma being in prison. The genie is trauma inflicted onto Basim by his jailer. Maybe we can even say the genie, in a sense, is the jailer. This is why the genie haunts Basim, why it stalks him. Just like how Eivor's memories revealed themselves through religious dreams that she could understand easier, Basim's trauma manifested in a more tangible way for him. Until he remembered his past life, Basim wouldn't be able to understand this trauma. Basim banished his demon and accepted the whole of who he was. Basim is a man unbound. He could not be controlled. Roshan has suffered her own tragedies, and the best thing for her was to leave the past in the past and pour her pain into the Brotherhood. But I think replacing her trauma with the Creed led her to just follow the Creed blindly. She found a home in the Hidden Ones. She found a higher calling. So surely her way was the only right way. But Basim was haunted continuously by his trauma. His past was always at his heels. He couldn't just push it away. For him, healing was to face his truth and accept himself. Basim and Roshan have different trauma responses in a way. What they thought was best were at odds. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because Roshan truly cared about Basim, but she was blinded and stuck in her ways. She couldn't see what Basim truly needed. But she did try. She really did. The fight with Roshan always breaks my heart. But how did everyone know what Basim was before he did? The biggest clue is the memory seal. It only reacted to Basim's touch. Think of Abu Abdallah and what he told his mother Qabiha. She seemingly knew from that. Don't forget, Basim does have that scar on his neck as well, the mark from Yggdrasil. The Order of Ancients know a fair amount about the Isu. The Order almost have a religious fervor for them, so perhaps they have information about a sage or some sort of context of an Isu reborn to the point where they can recognize that Basim touching the memory seal was enough to prove what he is. The things Qabiha told Basim in the Palace of the Green Dome. Who knows how much was true from her side of it? Was she simply goading Basim into joining her just to see if he could open the door? Who knows how convinced she truly was? Maybe she just knew Basim was her best bet to get into Alamut's temple. But even Roshan put the pieces together. It's a major reason as to why she wanted Basim to bury his past. She didn't want to lose him, for him to change into someone else that may not even be recognizable as the Basim she knew. But he needed to be the Basim we know, the one we meet in Valhalla. The one who, instead of being dogged by a genie, is dogged with a vengeance for a life long forgotten. The story of Mirage feels almost as cyclical as the Round City. Going in, you already suspect the outcome, but the journey is beautifully told. It's like a poem. Or at least I think the story is the most poetic of the franchise. Basim's tale from Street Thief to Master Hidden One, his discovery of himself. It hits. I don't know. The story really got to me on a personal level, which I won't go into, but I think it's still worth saying. No matter how many times I play it, the ending never fails to get to me. And I'm sure part of it is my intense love for Basim, but still. I think it's a story any Assassin's Creed fan could appreciate, especially with all the homages baked into the game's DNA. And hopefully I told the story in a way that made sense. Like I said, I wanted to get to the end of the story and really break that apart, the inner workings of Basim's mind as he comes to the conclusion of who he truly is. But there's still more to go over, so let's get into more Mirage content. Like with most games, there is optional side content and collectibles. Remember, these are not things necessary to finish the game, or just things to do if you're enjoying your time playing. We'll start with some of the less interesting stuff. Book collecting. I love the idea of collecting books that flesh out the time period more. It's more so the reward is fine. Not the best, that's why it's low on my list. It's nothing too complex. I wish there was a bit more to it. I wish the books were commented on when you turn them in, but it is what it is. You also have your usual gear chests, of course, but they also bring back treasure hoard maps from Valhalla, this time called Enigmas. I love a good riddle or puzzle that really tests my knowledge of the map. Those are always fun. You can also do some harder pickpocketing and collect goodies for Derwish, the timing for the quick time event being a little trickier, posing more of a challenge. I think it's good for practicing your reaction times. Mirage is big on that. In the same vein, you have collecting the mysterious shards. You collect them the same way. This time you're pickpocketing the Thahabin, elite order members. It's a step above collecting for Derwish because these order members also have guards around them, posing more of an interesting challenge. Plus, collecting the shards leads to one of the more interesting prizes, but I'll just put a pin in that for now. One of the most in-depth collectibles we've had is the historical sites. Their little icon looks like a snowflake, and in-game, when approaching them, they almost look like a little Animus glitch. This is one of the coolest parts of the game in my opinion. We've had the Discovery Tour for the past 3 games. With Mirage, that idea is more baked into the main game itself. You have a museum built into Mirage. More in-depth than any database we've had before, the devs' full homework is on display. Each little glitch gives you information about a whole subject from the Islamic Golden Age. Categories detail things like beliefs and daily life, to art and science, court life, economy, and government. Each category talks about a multitude of things from marriage, divorce, the bazaar, even the founding of Baghdad. That's only scratching the surface. When collecting the historical sites in-game, you are collecting them at their main point of interest. For example, when collecting one from a mosque, you can go read about the mosque and then climb around it in-game, almost as if it's this interactive exhibit. I think this is such a cool and unique way to approach learning. Having your players interact with the things they're learning about, I think, is a more active teaching method. Not that the devs need to teach us like it's a class, but I love seeing all the research they did or were taught on display for us to comb through. It just proves to certain crowds that they aren't just pulling things out of their ass. When it comes to side content, the more well-known is the side quest. In Valhalla, we had sort of shorter side quests known as world events. In Mirage, these types of shorter stories are back, just now called Tales of Baghdad. The Tales of Baghdad, while there are few, they help flesh up the world just a pinch more. Am I using this as an excuse to talk about baby Hytham? Yes, absolutely. You fools. I've tricked you. In Valhalla, Basim met Eivor alongside another Hidden One, Hytham. Hytham is younger than the Master Hidden One, so traveling back in time in Mirage, playing as a younger Basim, you then get to meet younger Hytham. This is the very first time Hytham meets Basim.
That's the cutest fucking thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
You find child Hytham high up on a viewpoint. He's referred to in the game as Young Eagle. The name Hytham means Young Eagle. We learn that Hytham is not only a fast learner, but much like Basim, he admires the Hidden Ones. After all, according to Hytham himself, the Hidden Ones avenged his mom when no one else did. Because of that, he now aspires to be one someday. Basim then gets to teach Hytham the Leap of Faith. Years later, Hytham will teach the Leap of Faith to Eivor. When the jump is over, Hytham wants to know if this means he's a Hidden One now. Basim says he's a bit too young right now, but to try again when he's older. As the group of kids run away, we hear one of them refer to Hytham by name.
Come on, Hytham! Before the Muezzin catches us!
I love this. I'm convinced this tale of Baghdad was made just for me, so thank you to whosever idea this is. It's such a small little thing, but I don't know. It helps things feel more connected in a way. I love knowing this is the moment Basim and Hytham met. They don't even know the impact they'll one day have on each other. I'm sorry. I'm very much invested in these two characters, obviously. I'd like to take some time to get into some of the costumes you collect in the game. I won't go over all of them, just a couple I want to highlight. The Hidden One outfit, I just really like. I love the Egyptian influences, showing the roots of the Hidden Ones. The cut of the outfit feels a lot like Bayek's Hidden One robes. There's a lot of wing motifs as well. It's really cool that the creatives did their own spin on the OG Hidden Ones. I think it deserves a small highlight. The Rustam outfit is a very interesting one. I really love how the hood looks like a mouth with the colors and the teeth and all that. I mostly want to bring this one up for what the outfit is referencing. Rustam is a figure from Persian myth who was immortalized through the Shahnameh. He tends to be represented as the mightiest Iranian holy warrior who went through battles in his own 7 labors. If I had to guess, the outfit that they were trying to depict was Rustam's Babur Bayan. There seems to be differing sources of how Rustam's famed armor came to be. part of it saying it was made of the skin of a leopard, but the word Babra means tiger. The nature of the beast seems to be a bit shaky from what I can tell. They reference this version with the tiger pelt in the outfit in the game though. Other origins say the suit is named after the dragon Rostam slew in India. The dragon was said to have invulnerable skin. If I had to guess, I would say the shoulder piece on the costume is a depiction of said dragon, but done in a more classic Persian art style. It is said that when Rostam wore his Babur Bayan, he would first put on a light layer of chainmail, then a thick suit of iron plates. You can't make out the chainmail in the costume, but you can see what looks like heavy plate underneath the fabric. It looks like their interpretation of Rostam's armor is a sort of patchwork of different origin stories. It comes together to create a very interesting outfit. The reason I bring up this costume is because it adds to the Persian influence this game has. But speaking of Persian influence... Remember back when I was discussing the story and when it came to the Tha'abin and their shards, I put a pin in that for later? Well, here's me removing that pin. The northern oasis, an otherwise unremarkable location in the desert, houses a secret. There's nothing really around, so when you walk up to the edge of the water, there's a strong impulse to jump in. Upon doing so, the rock slowly starts to look unnatural the deeper and deeper you dive, until you find a cave. Swimming through, you find yourself in something that looks more man-made. Things are looking somewhat familiar. At the end of the cave, you find yourself in a chamber. There's pulsing electricity, weapons behind barriers, and what looks like a sarcophagus of some kind. This is a tomb. Not just any tomb, but a tomb of an Isu. Those who came before built this tomb for this one person. They must have been important. To gain access to the riches of the tomb, you must collect 10 shards from the Tha'abin members and return with them. Inserting the shards into their slots will grant you a sword, a dagger, and Isu armor. The Isu armor is simply known as Melaid's armor, and this is where we tie back into that Persian influence. Melaid was a prince from Persia that was reincarnated into a god. From what I can gather, he was reincarnated as a Zoroastrian god of spirit. His reincarnation, though, is what gives him parallels to Basim. The creative director of Mirage has even said, to quote, "Melaid was a prince from Persian legend, which was reincarnated into a god, a perfect fit for creating the legacy of a new Isu character tied to Persian lore." End quote. I love this little detail. The outfit itself is honestly either my favorite Isu armor or tied for my favorite with the one from Origins. I love the dark colors contrasting against the gold. It really makes the metal bits just pop. The outfit feels almost ethereal, reminiscent of a starry night sky. It's cool, it's sleek, and if it didn't hide Basim's face, I'd be using it every time I unlocked it. The armor even has its own sound effects. You can hear the metal, you can hear the weight of it. I've always been a big fan of the different Isu armors, those small glimpses into their world. To me, they've always been really cool sci-fi armor designs, the perfect blend of fabric and metal. Well, for me at least. I mentioned how with the armor you receive a sword and a dagger as well. The sword is the Persian hero Melaid's own sword, forged just for him. In legend, it seems to have been a sword to nullify magic and inflict wounds that can only be healed by a special potion. Something that gives the description of the sword, "The Isu sacrificed much to destroy their foes," a bit of a spooky implication. It's not my favorite Isu sword, nor is it even my favorite sword in the game. Straight blade swords just aren't my favorite. It's still beautiful, don't get me wrong. The light elements still go hard. The dagger is called the Samsa Ama, and I personally couldn't find anything related to the name specifically. It's really unfortunate. But we're not quite done talking about Melaid. We know the Persian origins, but who was the Isu who wore the armor? If you recall the memory seal, the scene that played out involved two people. We know the one on his knees is Loki, but the other? That doesn't seem to be a definitive answer. Usually referred to as the jailer, I think most people would say he's either Odin or maybe some other Ace or Isu. I have my own theory. I think the jailer is Melaid. It seems odd to go out of your way to let us know whose Isu armor we find in the game. To me, it feels like there is a reason for it. I know that Alamut is in Iran and we find the armor all the way in Iraq, but perhaps there was once an Isu city where Baghdad was, where Melaid once lived or retired or what have you. Other than the Persian hero and Basim having their parallels, I think our Isu Melaid was the second person in the memory. Which means, if true, you can make Basim don the armor of his jailer that was then sort of remembered as a hero. But that's just my little theory. The jailer could easily have just been, like, Odin.
Good day, Tabid. What are you busying yourself with?
Have you heard about Iltani? One of the first of our founders. She assassinated Alexander the Great with an ingenious poison.
There are some cool extras and details you can find throughout the game. Starting at Alamut while Basim is training, you can find notes to read. One note you can read talks about the Rus attack on Constantinople. It's funny having Basim read about the Norsemen only to know that he'll one day meet Eivor. I think my favorite note is the one where a Greek hidden one finds the sketches of Darius's blade, Xerxes' Bane, and decides to send the drawings back to Persia, where Darius is from. You can also find a letter written by Roshan to Azadeh telling her friend not to search for her anymore. Azadeh is a character from the book all about Roshan that came out after the game, so having that little connection to the book is really cool. When you get to Baghdad and you see parts of buildings or crates or whatever covered in white, that's a free run path. The game uses the color white along rooftops to show you where the perfect free run paths are, a lot of them leading to bureaus. Speaking of bureaus, if you look at the counters that Rafiq stand behind, you see that little symbol on there? That is the same symbol that would be used later by the Levantine assassins as part of their crest. I believe the symbol is actually calligraphy that's mirrored up and down of the name Ali, probably short for the name Ali bin Abi Talib, the first Shia Imam, since the future assassins were Shiites. So this is probably more of a reference, if anything. In the wilderness, you can find a little oasis where there is a note written by a man who is testing his flying machine, to which you find him and what's left of the machine in the water. Though, funny enough, there is a note you can find in the city that's connected to this. There's a note talking about how this mystery man was inspired by the Greek story of Icarus. Later in the game, when you leave Anbar to hunt down the head of the Order, if you go the right way, you can see the Jinn on the road, just walking around. It honestly spooked me the first time I saw it. That thing is so creepy. The last one I want to talk about are the Masyaf keys. Yes, they make an appearance. If you ever read the Secret Crusade book, basically the book detailing Altair's life, you've learned that Altair found the memory seals and revelations underneath Alamut's fortress, and here they are. This is probably my favorite little detail you can find in the game. I immediately knew what they were when I saw them, and had a little fangirl moment if I'm being honest. I just thought it was so cool that they remembered to put them there. But these are just some of my favorite little touches and details I wanted to give some love to.
Only stubborn. Here, take this.
What do I do with it?
It is a Hidma token. Those who understand its value will do what is in their power to help.
In all honesty, I don't have a lot of critiques for the game. Of course, I tend to not have a lot of critiques when it comes to Assassin's Creed games, just because I love them so much. But even your favorite thing in the world is not immune to criticism. But like, actual criticism. Anyway, when it comes to Mirage, a part of me wishes the game was longer. Of course, that's not exactly a pure negative, if anything speaks to my love of the game. I'm actually a big fan of long-form games. I like a long fleshed out story. Bordeaux's creatives have great storytelling skills. I could tell with The Wrath of the Druids. That one just needed more time to tell a story. I was so happy when they got to do a mainline game. That would give them more time to flesh out a story. The length of the game is no detriment to the story by any means. I don't want you to think that it is. My point is more, I wish the game was longer to flesh out some of the ideas in the story, like, do the Order of Ancients have experience with other Isu and Vorn? We could have seen even more of Roshan and Basim's relationship. Things like that. But honestly, this is a minor thing. If anything, it just speaks more for my love of the game than anything. My one real critique is the token system. Throughout the game, you find yourself collecting these things called Khidma tokens. There are 3 types: Power, Merchant, and Scholar. You can use Power tokens to hire rebels to fight guards for you, Merchant tokens to hide in groups of merchants or open some locked chests, or even reduce prices in the merchant shops. Scholar tokens are used to hire musicians to distract guards, and at the cartographer who will sell you maps. They have a purpose, and if you pickpocket enough, you'll have plenty. My dislike is more of a personal flavor type thing. I guess I just find them too gamey. Well, in a video game? What I mean is, I guess I just find them a little cheesy. When Beshi first hands you one, it's just kind of goofy that factions operate with arbitrary tokens. Like, what is the real value of them? How does it compare to actual money? Honestly, I'm thinking too deeply about the tokens in general. I do use them because they are useful. I guess the concept of them just isn't really for me. I'm going to keep this section brief, because we don't need gamers ruining our good time. I just want to simply point out something. After gamers relentlessly complained about the Layla trilogy, whining about how long the games were, whining about how there were no assassins in their creed, blah blah blah, they claimed they wanted a shorter Assassin's Creed game, focused on stealth that starred an assassin. Okay, here it is! Oh wait, the game is still new. New, bad, old, good. So even though it's exactly what they wanted, they still, by gamer law, have to hate it. Unfortunate for them. I just thought I'd share something I saw circling online that I thought was, like, kind of funny. It's no secret that I love Mirage. I think it's the perfect game for Assassin's Creed 15th year celebration. It was the perfect love letter to the series. So, this is my love letter to Mirage. There's so much of the game I love. Returning to the Middle East as a setting, the bureaus. I love how the music perfectly captures the emotion of the game. It's such a beautiful soundtrack in general. I love the story. The conflict of Basim and Roshan, even though it's heartbreaking. The way Roshan thinks she's doing what's best for Basim, but in the end, Basim has to do what's actually best for himself. And the way that story just hits so personally for me is just... it's just so good. It's such a great story with great characters. And by now I've run into the ground how much I love Basim as a character. How I've loved him since Valhalla. This game is such a perfect complementary story to Valhalla, but you don't need to play Valhalla to play Mirage. I love the sound design, the way you can hear Basim breathing throughout the game. There's so much of his breathing you can hear, and I think it adds to that feeling of anxiety that Basim himself is feeling. You can hear him breathing heavily as he runs, which adds that bit of realism to the game. I love that if you pet enough cats, you'll get a little in-game pop-up that says, "Welcome Kitten One." It's just so freaking cute. I mean, what else can I say that I haven't said already? The way this game just hit me at my core. Maybe I'll just leave it at this. This is my love letter for a love letter.
You are beginning to ask the right questions, Basim. We shall find the answers together. I won't let the past define me. This is why I now consider myself the daughter of no one. If we do not quell the storm within us while awake, it takes us in our dreams. Like with you and your Jinni.
Have you not wondered at your nature? You, who see more, who know more.
What am I?
Something more than man.
I told you of the nightmares. The Jinni. You called it weakness. Told me to mend it. I tried, but you hid the way. You let me struggle alone.
Not alone! Follow the path she laid out for you, and I will kill you myself.
I never wanted this. But I need to know.
You are never alone.
And as for those who thought to bind me, should any of them still walk the earth, I so look forward to our reunion. But until that day, a new world awaits.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope it gave you a new appreciation for Mirage. Maybe you'll be curious enough to try it out for yourself now. Though funny enough, me working on this video has actually delayed me from making my Mirage Basim costume. I was going to make it for an upcoming convention. The irony is not lost on me. But I hope you had fun, and I hope I'll see you around for the next one. Safety and peace.